Hey guys, Martin here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so yesterday I put up the video using HIRUDEGARN on the Zamasu team. And the video was basically called, like, is this HIRUDEGARN's best team on Global right now? And I was talking about, as we have done in some of the other videos since his release, how he doesn't really fit onto a lot of teams currently in the global meta. And so on Zamasu's team, even though he only gets the 150% leader skill, he's able to do quite well and look relatively good. So I had a lot of people in the comments. I mentioned it in the video, right? One of his only 200% leads is the Trunks that has the 200% for time travelers. And I did see some people in the comments and on Twitter posting screenshots of their teams when I'd actually posted the video, saying that they have been trying him out on the Trunks 200% time traveler team and that I should give it a go. So I thought, you know what, why not? We'll do it for a video here and jump in and check out how well he does. In the process, we're also going to kind of talk about the meta on Global a little bit and how I feel about some of these events, because I've said it in some of these other videos, but like I put this team together, but one of the things you think about, of course, when building the team is like, well, what event am I going to be doing? And of course, for Global, the big events we really have is like Fusion Zamasu and Omega, but both of those events are so annoyingly restricting because they both have these big AoE phases. Zamasu's at the beginning, Omega's at the end. So for Omega, some units it's not as bad because you can build them up before you get to the end, and then they're actually able to defend against AoEs relatively well. But there are certain units that are just never good against AoEs. And like one of the units that we've brought on this team, is in sort of 7 at the moment, so we won't see her till turn 3, is the Int Mai, who is a 40% support unit for time travelers, so obviously works very well on this team. And once she's hit an enemy with her super attack, she has a 70% chance to dodge that enemy. So that, of course, is very, very good, but it's only after she's super attacked, which means if you are, you know, against an AoE enemy, you don't get to super attack first. So certainly very, very awkward. Let's get the 12 key with you. You haven't been hit at all, so you shouldn't get a kill here. And then we can get HIRUDEGARN. I guess, to be fair, HIRUDEGARN's not going to get a chance to dodge an attack, I don't think, here anyway, because he's going to, he's probably going to kill Cell here. But yeah, Zamasu's not going to get a crazy attack stat because he's not been hit, so he hasn't had any build-up or anything. So I've tried to build the team in a way that would work well for HIRUDEGARN. So we've bought Zamasu, because either one of these guys can go in slot 1 if they need to, depending on where the attacks are, if we want to get some extra dodges in with HIRUDEGARN or something. And of course they share Big Bad Bosses, Fierce Battle. I think they have one other link as well. You can double check on the next rotation. And then of course if we're running Trunks, that means that we are going to essentially either have to be floating a Trunks off all the time, because we don't want to really end up with double Trunks rotation. But we do kind of need some units to go on the other rotation that will work reasonably well with Trunks, and that's why I've brought the blue boys here. But of course, as I was just saying, right, if we don't want to end up with a double Trunks rotation, then I kind of have to do this, which is annoying because of course I do want to set up, I would like Mai to float into the rotation with HIRUDEGARN, so that we can see him not only with the 200% lead, with Big Bad Bosses active, but then also with a 40% support unit in slot 3 as well. So the blue boys, both turns in a row, have not dodged a super attack in slot 1, which is annoying. Obviously, this is a much easier event, so we don't have to worry about taking too much damage. And that leads me on to what I wanted to say about events, right? I started talking about it before with the unit choices, with Mai. The anniversary content that's going to be coming out for Global, which of course, whilst it does up the difficulty in terms of how hard some of these bosses hit, almost none of these events have AoEs. I think Gogeta has one near the end, but a lot of these events are just these longer, like multiple turns, you fight against one enemy kind of fights, right? Like we're used to from normal red zones and stuff. And that, of course, gives you way more options for trying out teams, because even when it comes to, like, this Trunks team, right, the 200% lead Trunks, Time Travelers for HIRUDEGARN, against Fusion Zamasu, even being physical, Trunks is not good against Fusion Zamasu's AoE. So that is one of the biggest problems that I've had with HIRUDEGARN in terms of how to, like, rate him as a unit, is that the 200% leads that he's on, his team is not good, and then Cooler is just not good for current content anymore. And Zamasu is still pretty good. HIRUDEGARN can obviously work really well on some of these teams, but like Cooler you can't use in difficult content anymore. Trunks you can, but again, he struggles in some of them. And And then, yeah, his own team is just weird. And that's it for Global until the anniversary when we get Broly. And then HIRUDEGARN gets the 200% lead from Broly. He can work really well on that team. I think someone had mentioned it in one of the streams. Obviously, the fact that Broly doesn't have big bad bosses, which is kind of awkward for some of the other villains on his team. But with HIRUDEGARN, the interesting thing with Broly is that one of the best ways to run his team, and a very powerful option for a rotation for him, is to float one of the Brolys off, or however you need to manage your rotations in the first couple of turns. So you can get both of the Brolys together, for one of them to transform, get the domain active, and then them together on that rotation with all of their links active, and then having the buff from the domain as well. That rotation is incredibly powerful. And then it doesn't need to, you don't really need to worry as much about the fact that he doesn't have big bad bosses, because he's just kind of holding it down on one of the other rotations, or just one of your set 2 rotations. So then the other rotation, you could have HIRUDEGARN and some other big super bosses character like Zamasu, who has big bad bosses, and they can go together on that rotation, and it doesn't really matter that Broly doesn't have it. That's 3 for 3 now for supers that these guys haven't dodged as well. That's crazy. Oh yeah, we've got to the point where their guard has run out now as well. So it's a good thing this isn't a more difficult event. But I suppose that is, you know, one of the things when it comes to the Blue Boys and their transformation condition that no one has really ever been a fan of. But then secondarily, like what I'm saying about the content that's available for HIRUDEGARN and his teams, is the fact that if you were to take this team up against a harder event, like one of the actual anniversary content things, the Blue Boys not dodging a Slooper in slot 1 in that case would have probably just been game over, depending on the boss that we were fighting. But I think that's why it's weird for me, the idea of running him on this Trunks team. I did talk about it in a previous video, but because you're running Trunks, who is a super class character, and obviously is a Saiyan, well, he's a hybrid Saiyan, but he has like the Saiyan links and everything, it's not really the ideal team for HIRUDEGARN, unless you're running the team purposely with a bunch of units that are really good to run with HIRUDEGARN, but then you're not running necessarily a bunch of units that are good with the Trunks, who you have 2 of because he's the leader of your team. So that's where the balance for this is kind of awkward, right? Like, we've got the rotation with the Blue Boys, but we have to keep floating off Trunks, so we don't end up with a double Trunks setup. So that's why I don't like mixing super and extreme characters on teams unless they are units that will link relatively well. And that's where, like, units like Broly, even though he doesn't have big bad bosses, he has links like Prepared for Battle and Super Saiyan and stuff like that. And then even Rose, who does have big bad bosses, usually has like Prepared for Battle, Super Saiyan, that kind of thing, right? So you can mix and match those teams a little bit. I guess, to be fair, like, physical Rose would have been an interesting unit to bring on the team, because, you know, he can link up with the Trunks and the Blue Boys, as well as Zamasu and HIRUDEGARN. So he's quite an interesting one. I know he's not available on JP, but of course we've already got him on Global, so by the time the anniversary content comes out, he will of course be an option for these kind of teams, especially when Broly comes out, you know, with the proper big super bosses lead. Broly can run HIRUDEGARN on his team. You can also have Rose on there. That build for Broly's team I think can be good. It got a lot of hate during the anniversary because I think people were too narrow-minded in thinking that Broly's team is supposed to be, because he's an extreme character and it's just the extreme class curse, I guess, but like, his best team wasn't really like him and a bunch of the top extreme units because of him not having big bad bosses and stuff like that, right? So his team always benefited from having some super class characters, or characters like, you know, a character like Rose that would have been nice to be out on JP when he came out, so that he can have these characters that have links with him, but also offer big bad bosses to some of these other characters as well. So we definitely have an interesting team build in the horizon for HIRUDEGARN, but sadly just not as crazy as he could be currently on Global, which is disappointing because I'm having a ton of fun with the Goku. It's another thing we talked about on the podcast last night, but I think that Super Saiyan 3 Goku is really, really good. I think he's being underrated quite a bit. I did my TURs on Global tier list yesterday, and I did put him at number 3. I think HIRUDEGARN was down at number 6, because teams are definitely something that I do take into consideration. I do like to rate the unit's performance. Like, if a unit sucks, but you can run them on the best team in the game and they can kind of just about skate by, they're not going to get put in a high position on the list, right, just because they're on a good team. But with HIRUDEGARN, it's kind of like the opposite, right, where HIRUDEGARN is really, really good, but the teams that he's on are not so great, and then that kind of hurts his performance. So here we get to see we've got Big Bad Bosses, we've got Nightmare and Fierce Battle, we also have the 50% support, or sorry, 40% support from Mai. So we've got 514k defense at the start of turn. I don't know, I don't think did he dodge 3 attacks on the previous turn? I don't think so. So he won't have guaranteed guard here, which could it could be a funny ending to the video, right? Because if he doesn't dodge this slot 1 super from the buff cell, it's type disadvantage, so we'd have probably died. But there we go, 12.5 mil. So this is what I mean, right? Like, we ran him on that Zamasu team, and he got some decent, like, numbers. He was putting out, like, 10 mil attacks. But, like, now that he's on a 200% lead and with support, that's a 12 million damage, 12 million attack stat super. Sadly, we did not get the good RNG with his additionals, because each time you get an additional super, because he's raising attack, that attack stat goes up. So we would have seen some potentially very high numbers from that attack stat, but unfortunately that was not the case due to only getting additional normals, but it is what it is. But yeah, so I mean, the team can work. I didn't realize we were that close to the Dokkan attack, so I'm not going to hit the notes here, we'll just let it play out. This team can work, but it's definitely not optimal. I mean, if you're going into some of the harder events in the game, 70% dodge is nice, but I don't know if I would be running the Int Mai, right? I mean, mine is built for full dodge as well, so she does have a pretty good chance to dodge enemy attacks in general, but of course, you know, she took that big slap there from the physical buff cell. So I don't know, it's an interesting team build for sure. Shout out to anyone who did mention it, the Trunks build, and giving it a try. Obviously the Toa can be very, very good here as well. She's giving that bit of support. So yeah, we've got the 12.5 again, because she gives 40% as well. Can we actually get some additional supers here and see the big numbers? Here we go. So then we got up to 13.6, and we can still potentially get another one here as well. In fact, we've got the dodge off, so we actually can get the hidden potential as well. So 14, can we get the, we'll go over 15 million if we get the next one too. But I mean, look at that. I mean, I know Cell's not the toughest boss or anything like that, but we took off half of his entire pool of health with our supers from HIRUDEGARN, dodged all the most of the attacks, the important one being the super, and took double digits from a normal. Like, HIRUDEGARN, when he's performing well, HIRUDEGARN is really, really good. It's just the big issue, as we've said many times at this point, is that he just doesn't really have the team on global. The Broly releasing is going to be such a massive buff for him. Like, I genuinely cannot wait for the anniversary for a multitude of reasons. Like, it brings so much new content, which is going to be really fun for creating content and, you know, doing videos and trying out teams and stuff like that. Rare Vegeta Blue KO screen as well, let's go. But yeah, just Broly coming out, Gogeta, both of them in part 1. As much as Beast is, you know, the best unit in the game, and I'm very much looking forward to getting him as well, I really want both Broly and Gogeta. They're both really good units, their teams are fun, their animations are awesome, and yeah, Broly is going to be a nice buff for HIRUDEGARN, an interesting team to run Rose on, who of course I have with like 2 dupes. You know, there's a lot of interesting setups for global when the anniversary comes around. But there you go, there's HIRUDEGARN on the 200% Trunks Time Travelers team. You know, it's not bad, it can get the job done. It just kind of sucks that on global, this team, and obviously you'd have to change a few of the characters anyway, but even Trunks himself, this team is not going to be good against like Fusion Zamasu. And then Omega, I mean, the STR phase with the AoEs could be kind of annoying for Trunks if you haven't got the standby up ready for that point. And then the final phase, again, even though he's got type disadvantage, not great against those AoEs from Omega. Toa could be okay, but Mai needs to attack first. So this team can work for HIRUDEGARN, but it's just not good in the 2 main difficult events. So HIRUDEGARN's just in a really tough spot, unfortunately. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.